to start teaching in 5 minutes. So if you want to hang out with me and just stay there, in 5 minutes I'm going to start. As I'm saying, in 5 minutes, in this moment, in 4 minutes, I'm going to start. So be with me. And in the meantime, I'm going to put some music and see how it goes. Since we're talking about Heschel, this is the Dober Nigun. And our fellow Ariel and Aria singing. We start teaching in 3 minutes. You can write to me so I know who is there. I know that I have a few people. So write to me. I want to know who is with me. 2 minutes, we start. Sing with me. Ira, wonderful. Welcome, Ira. Please, the rest is there. Write to me so I know who you are. 1 minute, I'm starting. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm happy to be with you and those who are with me. And I have only Ira who wrote something to me. So the rest of you, if you could identify yourself by writing something, by typing something, I could know who I'm talking to. Because if not, it feels very lonely. And I also know that I'm going to be talking to many more people watch these webinars afterwards than during. So if you want to identify yourself so I can say hello to you, will be wonderful. Chaim. So let me accommodate the camera a little bit. Okay. So here I am in front of this text from Heschel, An Analysis of Piety, from Moral Grandeur and Spiritual Audacity. So I hope you have the text in front of you. Anyway, I'm going to be reading. But always I have to give a little bit of background about myself regarding Heschel. I don't see myself as a scholar in Heschel. I see myself as a disciple of the disciple of Heschel. And I come to Heschel as a sacred text with tremendous sense of awe and reverence and gratitude. I believe that Heschel is a bridge between worlds. The world of Hasidut, where he was born, he was said to be a great Hasidic rabbi. As Susanna Heschel said, he was treated as royalty. And he decided to go to the University of Berlin. And there he studied philosophy. He went to the Orthodox seminary. He went to the Reform Synagogue, the seminary at the same time. And he was a bridge. He was this Renaissance man where he brought these worlds together and he did things that were not done. So I come to Heschel with tremendous sense of reverence, of awe, and of gratitude for opening the world of Hasidut, of Hasidism, and merging it with modernity. So I say, as in front of any clay kodesh, I say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And I'm grateful for studying Torah through the lens of Heschel. So I hope that you have this text in front of you. So we are doing an analysis of piety. And Heschel was a very pious man. Piety is what defined Heschel. So let's go to the first page of this text. We're going to be reading some of these paragraphs, and then I'm going to be talking about it. And for sure, we are not going to cover it all, because some paragraphs, as Heschel are just dynamite, are incredible. So he says, to some, piety suggests escape from normal life, an abandonment of the world, seclusion, a denial of cultural interest, and is associated with an old-fashioned clerical and conscious pattern of behavior. To others, the word suggests prudishness, if not hypocrisy and fanaticism. or seems symptomatic of an attitude towards life which is unhealthy and indeed absurd. Yet the pious man is still with us. So is reacting to what we call today fanaticism, to this this world that is completely separated from us, and it looks as something completely out of this world, and as somebody who wants to reject this world. And he's saying, so if that's the case, how come pietism still is with us? So from there he jumps to the need to define what is piety. So I am in page 3 of 6, in the middle paragraph. And he says, piety does not denote a function, but an ideal of the soul. Like wisdom or truthfulness, it is something attainable and is subject to the individual character of a man being colored by his qualities. Thus, there is a passionate and as well as a sober type of piety, an active as well as poetistic type, an emotional as well as an intellectual one, which is very important, which means that you are not born a pious person. We are born with certain qualities of the soul, and we cultivate these characteristics of our neshama, of our soul, and we become pious persons. And they're according to the characteristics of our soul, of our personality. They're going to be pietistic people that are more into the quiet, and all others who are more into the ecstatic. Some of us have moments of both. Some of us have moments of both. And he says our objective in this paper is an analysis, at the bottom of the page, an analysis of the consciousness that accompanies the acts of a pious man, and the classification of the concepts latent in his mind. So, what is the consciousness that brings that pious man to become a pious person? What is it? What is the awareness? Why? What is the milieu? What is the context? What are the conversations? What is the music? What is the water that this pious person has to swim in to come out as a pious person? So then move to page 307, in second half of the middle paragraph. Piety does not consist in isolated acts, in sporadic, ephemeral experiences, nor it's limited to a single stratum of the soul. Although it manifests itself in particular acts, it is beyond the distinctions between intellect and emotion, will and action. Its source seems to lie deeper than the reach of reason and to range wider than consciousness. When it reveals itself in single attitudes such as devotion, reverence, or the desire to serve, its essential forces lie in a stratum of the soul far deeper than the orbit of any of this. It is something unremitting, persistent, unchanging in the soul, a perpetual inner attitude of the whole man. Like a freeze in the atmosphere, it runs as a drift through all the deeds, utterances, and thoughts. It is a tenor of life betraying itself at each trait of character, at each mode of action. Piety points to something beyond itself, and it works in the inner life. Wow, wow, wow. That is Heschel. I always say, so we are reading, Ron Gutman wants me to repeat the names of Moral Grandeur and Spiritual Audacity. This is a book of essays that Susanna Heschel compiled, of essays by Heschel. And this is the chapter called an Analysis of Piety. And those of you who have the text is on page 307. So it is as if Heschel is saying is of the pious man or the pious person. You know, he's writing in a moment where I think man for him means humanity. It's beyond himself or herself. It's something that covers and paints and taints every aspect of the personality, because that piety are the glasses through which he or she sees reality. Everything is an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity to elevate the conversation. Everything becomes an opportunity to see the world through these pietistic lenses. So let's move now to the next page, 307. I am in the middle of the paragraph, 307. Piety is thus a mode of living. It is the orientation of human inwardness towards the holy. It is a predominant interest in the ultimate value of all acts and feelings and thoughts. With his heart open and to an attracted by some spiritual gravitation, the pious man moves as if it were towards the center of a universal stillness. And his conscience is so placed as to listen the voice of God. Oh my God. I always feel, who writes like this? Who talks like this? Like a poet and a philosopher at the same time. If you want to know, I'm talking, Marcelo's talking, and I'm the mindfulness guy here at BG. I'm the meditation person. This is why I meditate. This is why I meditate. This is why I believe in mindfulness. I believe in it. I practice mindfulness. Because I want to find the silence to tune in to the small, still voice of God. Because I believe there is a conversation that is happening at a frequency that is not accessible to us in modern life. I mean, in modern life, in regular life. I believe it with the chatter and the conversation and these machines and the jobs and the running around. It's very difficult to get in touch to human inwardness. So human inwardness has to be cultivated. What if there is a still more of small voice of God happening in the universe, and we are missing it because we are running around? So the call of the pious man is to try to connect constantly to that conversation. It is like having a short wave radio. Remember the shortwave radios that you tune in and then suddenly you listen to these voices, and then you fine tune and you can hear. You can hear. This is what the pious human being does all the time. Try to tune in. I believe this is what Heschel is saying. Let's go to the next paragraph at the bottom of page 308. The pious man lays no claim to reward. There's no reward in doing this. The reward is being able to connect. The reward is being able to listen, to be affected, and to effect. Heschel says, he hates show on being conspicuous in any way, and is shy of displaying his qualities even to his own mind. That's why there is so much solitude in meditation. That's why I believe revelation was given in the desert. Going 40 days. Imagine you walking 40 days in the wilderness to try to find this small, still voice of God. There is solitude. There is solitude in that search. At the top of page 309, piety is not a habit, something running along in familiar groove. It is rather an impulse, a spur, a stirring of the self. I like that, an impulse, a stirring of the self, a need, a human need to go to connect deeper, and to go there, to go to that uncharted territory. We are on 309 in the middle of the page. Piety and faith are not one and the same thing. They have differences from each other and are not necessarily congruent. That's also fascinating. Fascinating. What do you mean by that, Heschel? What do you mean? There can be faith without piety, and there can be piety without faith. Imagine Heschel saying this and coming from the Hasidic world. Again, there can be faith without piety. And there can be piety without faith. And like faith, piety not only accepts the mystery, but attempts to match it in human endeavor, venturing to lift the human to the level of the spiritual. Wow. 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 And like faith, piety not only accepts the mystery. There is a mystery. There is that voice. There is that conversation, if we want to say, that started in Sinai and we continue, and we have to fine-tune to listen to that voice. But attempts to match the human endeavor. So piety tries to match the walking on Broadway, the taking the subway, the paying our taxes, the fighting and the struggling, and you name it, whatever we do every day, venturing to lift all our experiences during our day and saying we are not only on this earth to do that. We are not only here on this earth to go to a place and to get a coffee mug and to walk on Broadway like we do, or to be talking on the phone, or to be running around. That's we do it. But it's not about that to be human, or whatever else we do. So what is the intention of piety? Let's lift the human to the level of the spiritual. Let's move from behavior, from patterns of behavior, that we are so connected, so attached. Oh, I'm like this because I'm my mother, or because of whatever. Let's get out of that. The pious human being is saying, and lift the existence of whatever we do to the level of the spiritual, to the aspirational, where we see the big picture, where we see ourselves as part of a larger story that is not only the continuation of our egos. It's not only about me, about you, about us. At the bottom of the page says, rather he's striving to be himself, penetrated and actuated by the sacred, eager to yield to its force and to identify himself with every trend in the world which is toward the divine. Now it's talking about he's combining with faith. He's combining it with God. with the divine. Let's bring every aspect of our existence to say, Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, I have God in front of me all the time. That's what he's saying. Ultimately, that's the goal of the pious person, to have the divine as a witness. Atemedai, Neum Adonai, you are my witness, and to be witnesses of the creation, and to elevate the existence. Now on page 310. Page 310. Piety is the realization and verification of the transcendent in human life. Gift. Piety is the realization and verification of the transcendent in human life. What is the transcendent in human life, in our lives? You know, when we read Parashat Hayei Sarah, it's a very interesting way of expressing how many years she lived, and it's giving in portions. So how many years are we really alive? What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be connected? What does it mean to be part of something that is bigger and transcendent? So piety is the realization and verification of the transcendent in human life. It's the invitation to be there. Faith is a way of thinking, and thus a matter of the mind. Piety is a matter of life. Interesting, fascinating, fascinating. For Heschel, faith is an act of thinking. Through thinking, you arrive to faith. Piety is a matter of life. It's a matter of being aware. It's a matter of being present. Piety stands entirely within the subjective and originates in human initiative. Piety is usually preceded by faith, and it is then faith's achievement, an effort to put faith's ideas into effect, to follow its suggestions. This is the relationship that he finds between faith and piety, which is interesting. I'm thinking about when he said that there could be piety without faith, which I imagine it could be, but when he talks about piety, this is what I'm thinking about. A piety that is preceded by faith. I have faith in this God. I have faith that this conversation continues, this conversation with the soul, with the mystery of life that is happening in a specific frequency exists. And I have a possibility of an invitation to be part of that conversation, and accepting to be part of that conversation is a pious act. It's an act of piety. So I always felt that piety and faith are related. So then he goes to one of his favorite rebbes. I hope you read the book Passion for Truth, The Passion for Truth, which is about the Kotzker Rebbe. And the Kotzker Rebbe, this Hasidic master, was really, really, really harsh. He had a very specific type of piety, a piety that was about tough love, that we would call it today. So for him, the Kotzker Rebbe becomes a teacher, a spiritual teacher. The teachings of the Kotzker Rebbe. And he says, the most magnificent edifice, most beautiful temples and monuments of worldly glory are repulsive to him. when they are built by the sweat and tears of suffering slaves, or erected through injustice and fraud. Hypocrisy and pretense of devoutness are more distasteful to him than open iniquity. So he's really talking about the pious man. I am reading the Kotzker into what he's saying after being in love with Passion for Truth. And Susanna Heschel tells a story when the students at JTS were discussing is if gelatin is kosher. So if gelatin is prepared with the hooves of the horse or whatever, it's not kosher because the animal is not kosher. So they get into a fascinating discussion with Heschel about kashrut. Yes, no, why? And trying to find, it's a pilpul. It's this fascination with trying to find the truth through a question. So they go into it, and then she tells the story. This is happening in their living room. That Heschel asked the student, "Is an atomic bomb kosher?" Dead silence. They don't even know how to relate to the question. They don't know how to relate to the question. We are into kosher wines, and what makes a wine kosher, whatever, there's some morality issues about if a non-Jew touches the wine. So Heschel would ask regarding vineyards in California or any other place, is this wine being made with the forced labor of underpaid workers from Mexico that has been taken advantage to produce this wine, and goes through all the process of kashrut? So in theory, we could put a seal, it's kosher. He was saying this wine is not kosher. So that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. The sweat and the tears of the suffering slaves and injustice and fraud, hypocrisy is what jumps, jumps from the text of life over the pious man, the pious person. So let me go now to page 312 in the middle. Further, piety is an attitude towards reality. It's in entirety. The pious man, being able to sense the relations of things to transcendent values, will be incapable of disparaging any of them by enslaving them to his own service. So his own service. The service is to God. The service is ultimately to humanity, to the common good, to kindness, to salvation, to restoration, to tikkun. It's not to himself or herself. At the bottom of the page says, in 312, because of this attitude of reverence, the pious man is at peace with life in spite of its conflicts. He patiently acquiesces in life vicissitudes because he glimpses spiritually their potential meaning. Every experience opens the door into a temple of a new light, although the vestibule may be dark and dismal. Wow. Many times when I practice things like that, people have accused me of being Buddhist. And the truth of the matter, I don't know anything about Buddhism. I respect it dearly. I have great Buddhist friends, but I really never studied Buddhism. It comes from here. It comes from a Heschelian reading of tradition. He means that for the pious person, we can learn from every experience. I don't know if he knows why bad things happen to good people. To go into that theology of punishment, reward and punishment, will be stretching it too much. But he knows that we learn from everything in life. And the pious person will accept what happens with tears. With tears. It's not that the person is not going to say Kaddish, is not going to suffer. But he is going to go through these experiences with equanimity, with peace of mind. Maybe he's saying, I don't understand why this is happening, but I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to try to stay, not try, I'm going to stay that place. I'm thinking, Viktor Frankl, who is not pious in the sense of Heschel, but he writes about finding meaning in Auschwitz. In the darkest moment of Jewish history, he finds meaning. Maybe he had this type of piety that he's talking about, maybe piety without faith, and looks at everything from the perspective of the transcendent. 3:13. The pious man does not take life for granted. The weighty business of living does not cloud for him the miracle that we live through God. No routine of social or economic life dulls his mindfulness of this, the ineffably wonderful in nature and history. History to him is the perpetual improvisation by the Creator, which is being continually and violently interfered with by man. And his heart is fixed by this great mystery that is being played by God and man. Wow. Oh my God. Yes, the pious man does not take life for granted. It doesn't go through life with a sense of entitlement, like modern human beings go with a sense of entitlement. And the more power we have, the more entitlement we have. He goes with a sense of awe, with a sense of reverence, knowing that every minute is a miracle. Every minute it's a gift of a possibility. And doesn't matter what is the reality that we are living, nothing will take him away from this improvisation. I like this, that life is an improvisation by the Creator. So he believes, as a pious man, that we are in this improv. Ron, if you're still there, you are the actor. When a theme is thrown and these actors go and they improv. So in a way, Heschel is saying we are all improv actors in the drama of life. And there is this constant reading of the text of the possibility of finding meaning beyond absurdity. In this playfulness of this text that's being constantly created in this relationship with the mystery of life. and the mystery of God. Let's go to page 315. 315. Thus the pious man realizes also that whatever he may have at his disposal has been bestowed upon him as a gift. And there is a difference between a possession and a gift. Possession is lowliness. Possession is entitlement. It's mine. It's for me. What about me? What about my seats? What about my this? What about my this? What about... That's the ethos of modern life. What about my rights? What about my fill the blanks? What about the gift? If we see exactly the same thing as a gift, or we see everything that we have as a gift, as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be part of a story that is not about me. And if there is something wrong, to help in fixing it. A possession is something that's mine and I deserve it. A gift, it's something that produces gratitude. To live a life that is filled with gratitude, it's completely different to live a life that is filled with entitlement and self-righteousness. The ordinary man, now I'm in the middle of the page, the ordinary man is inclined to disregard all indications in life of the presence of the divine. In his conceit and vainglory, he thinks of himself as the possessor. That's a description of modern life. That's a description also of these new networks. Now I'm in Facebook, and I am fascinated by this phenomenon, and I love that I've been able to connect with friends from a long time ago. But what does it mean, friends? What does it mean that we found another way to connect with the people that only agree with me, and we create tribes and we separate ourselves? So when something which is as a gift, because all these things could be a tremendous gift in openness, in communication. In the Passover Seder, we had a story of a refugee who really was saved. His life was saved thanks to social media. It was an unbelievable story. But what if we see all this as a gift, as an opportunity? It's not about another way to tell only my story, my friends, my possessions. Let's move. The final paragraph on page 316. Page 316. Piety, finally, is an allegiance to the will of God. Whether that will is understood or not, it is accepted as good and holy, and it is obeyed in faith. Life is a mandate, not the enjoyment of an annuity, a task, not a game, a command, not a favor. Wow. Wow. So I am going to leave you with some thoughts about all this. Heschel is, since I was talking about technology and social media, when you take a picture now in your smartphones, on your tablets, you take that picture and you put the finger and you open like this, and you extend the picture. This is what Heschel does. Heschel puts the finger there on the ineffable, in the mystery, in that fine-tuning, in the poetry and the theology and the thinking of this dialogue with the divine, and opens it up. And when it opens it up, we invite us to get in to a new dimension, to the dimension of the mystery, the dimension of the holy. And by entering that, he invites us to question our lives, but not as a masochistic exercise of questioning. It's an invitation to the soul, an invitation to see our lives as a gift, as the possibility of transcendence. So my friends, I leave you now. I'm glad that we are able to study Heschel together for a few minutes. Remember, this is Moral Grandeur and Spiritual Audacity. This text is called An Analysis of Piety. It's on page 305, begins on page 305 of the book. And I send you my love, and let's all this be as a preparation for Shavuot. Shavuot is coming. Shavuot is the moment, Zman Matan Torateinu, the moment of revelation at Sinai. Once Heschel was asked if he believed that really revelation happened. He said, I don't know what happened here, what happened there at Mount Sinai, but something must have happened that we're still talking about. So the beginning of a conversation in which we are invited to be part of it. So keep preparing for Shavuot, so we all walk together towards Sinai, more prepared. Much love, and see you soon. Bye-bye.